Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to my Mandalorian MOC. So to start off this review, let's just take an overview of everything that we have here. So if you guys have seen my YouTube Shorts video, you already know that I combined some bricks from Trouble Tatooine in the Mandalorian Battle Set Pack, which is where this little base comes here in the corner. Decided to include this, because why not? And then we have the Land Speeder as well. And then we have this from the Trouble from Tatooine. And of course, all these minifigures come from those sets as well. Although these two are custom made, we'll look into those later on in the video. So there's the nice little overview for you guys. Now let's kind of dive into specific details. So one detail that I specifically want to dive into, so that way you guys can use this kind of on your builds, is I used a lot of studs on the sides. This build, as far as the detail, heavily relies on studs on the sides. And I want to show you guys how I did it, that way you guys can replicate this into your own builds as well. So basically, as you can see, this entire part right here is studs on the sides. The whole front of this building here is studs on the sides. And I just want to kind of give you guys, I just kind of want to break this thing open and show you guys the inside, that way you guys can get an idea of how this all came together. So here's kind of a view of like the inside of this build, if you will. This is underneath the 316 by 16 plates that I used to put this thing together. And as you can see, I basically just have some studs underneath there. Let's see if I lifted it up. You can see kind of what we got going under here. And then you can see that I just used some studs on the sides bricks and just kind of shoved these plates onto there and put some detail. And it really isn't that complicated, which is what I really like about it. It's not complicated, but it's still very aesthetically pleasing, which is what I really like. Let's dive into some more details. So the next thing I kind of want to dive into, if you will, is I just want to show you guys how I have the sand here, up here, and up here as well. So basically what I did for that is a form of freeforming. If you guys are unfamiliar with the term freeforming, that's basically when instead of just putting down plates, you stack them on top of each other, or use tiles, or you do something just to make it look a little bit more realistic. It's not really that advanced of a Lego technique, but it does take some getting used to and some mastering. So I kind of wanted to show you guys how that all came together as well. So to show my example of freeforming, I have this little spot right here that is part of the MOC, right next to Mando and Baby Yoda. So basically, freeforming, in order to make it look more realistic, it needs more dimension and texture. So basically what I've done to capture that is I'd use the most basic type of freeforming on this to say bricks. But basically all I did was stack bricks on top of each other and using some variety of colors. You can see we got olive green, we've got dark tan and light tan, just all to make it look nice in variety. I did this all around the edges here, and I really like how it turns out. And this is the most basic version of freeforming. Obviously, you can get so much more advanced when it comes to freeforming, but this is the most basic, and I wanted to use the most basic to save bricks. So yeah. So the third and final thing I want to talk about before we dive into those custom minifigures is I just want to talk about color and color choice. So as you guys can see, we have a very distinctive color theme as far as like sand and like metal parts. You can see that we have very specific colors. We have like the grays, and then we have the tans and olive greens. I wanted to make sure that we had a nice distinctive color variety. That way this build could really pop as much as possible. So I just want to dive into that real quick as well. So now we're going to talk about color theme, obviously, and I just want to say that color theme really is your choice. Although if you do it correctly, it can really improve your build. So the first thing you're going to do with color theme is think about what you're building, what it's about. So Mandalorian, color-wise, I feel like the tans and the grays are kind of the colors that you see for Mandalorian generically. I mean, maybe you could switch out the tan for like snow instead of sand, but I felt like this was really like the type of colors you see in a Mandalorian build. But it really just depends on what you're building. If you're building something completely different, you're going to want to use colors that go with that. And I do recommend sticking to 2 to 3 colors, that way your build doesn't look too much all over the place. Like I wouldn't have 3 different colors. Because like if I added snow and on top of the sand, I feel like it just wouldn't look right, obviously. So I kind of recommend you guys follow those same guidelines if you're trying to build something similar. So yeah, so there are basically the three main techniques that I used going into this MOC. So that way if you guys want to build something maybe Mandalorian themed, Marvel themed, something that you kind of use similar building techniques, I hope that helps you guys out. So yeah, now let's dive into those 2 custom minifigures and round out this video. So here on the right we have Grief Karga, and on the left we just have a random, I guess, character that lives wherever this is taking place, and he's just engaging the battle. So let's start with Grief Karga, because I feel like that is the more interesting of the two. So as you guys probably know if you watch Mandalorian, Grief Karga was an ally, turned enemy, and then back to ally in the Mandalorian. So Grief Karga, I felt like because when I was making this custom minifigure, all I found was that I just couldn't make him look interesting and unique enough to be in this battle and feel like a unique minifigure. So what I ended up doing was taking my Grief Karga that I created, and I pulled off his hair, I gave him a hood, I gave him a quiver, and I gave him this knife. So I know it isn't really show accurate, but I really wanted his minifigure to pop on the build, because I felt like what I initially had for him, I just had like all this gear taken off, he had a little pistol, and he had his hair. I felt like that just really didn't work well with the MOC. He just looked really plain. So I really like what I ended up doing in the end for him, and I think he looks really well on the MOC. So here we just have a character that isn't necessarily canon to Mandalorian. It's just a random guy that I made to help populate the scene, because I felt like the scene just as a whole was lacking just like standard citizens, if you'll even call them that, because I have all these like characters that belong and are from the show. So I decided I needed a character that just kind of was just there and not as important. So basically the storyline behind him that I just made up is that he stole Mandalorian's Beskar staff, and he's trying to trade it for Grogu, and I just kind of made that up, but that's basically the story behind him. You can see he's a pretty basic minifigure, taking his Beskar staff so we can get a better look. You can see here that I used the Captain America hair. This hair is really generic. And then we got the Captain America. It's from the Spider-Man Homecoming set from like 2017. Not able to get today. This is a very, very old torso from like 2014 probably. It's from a Batman set. And then these legs was from I think it was Series 13 CMF. I don't know. But this guy has made up some very old Lego prints. So yeah, that is my other custom minifigure. And then the other 6 minifigures are simply just the minifigures from the 2 sets that I purchased. So there you guys have it, my in-depth review of my Mandalorian MOC. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please feel free to subscribe. This build was a total of 8 hours build time. This thing was not easy to build, so I'd really appreciate a sub. We're super close to 100, which I never thought would happen, but here we are. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.